Hey guys, Pastor Jeff here. Welcome back to the Brave Way podcast. We're doing a series here on dating, engagement, young marrieds, seasoned marrieds. This one here, we're going to talk about engagement. Last time we talked about dating, and just to be clear, as we talked about it, there's really no American dating in the Bible where you kind of date this person until you get tired of them, and then date this person until you get tired of them, and then date this person until you get tired of them to find the perfect one.
Right.
Really, biblical dating is about becoming who God wants you to be, knowing how He wants you to live, and then when you're ready to get married, then you start pursuing that. And we're at the place now where we're talking about engagement. Yes. And engagement is a process from the time that you commit to being married until you're actually married. And I think there's benefit to that time. So during that time, what would you say is a thing or some things that are really important about that season for an engaged couple?
The most important thing that we did was definitely biblical soul care, and just talking to a third party, asking, all the questions about what do we need to prepare for, what do we need to be looking for, what do we need to be doing now, and then having an advocate with us. We had another couple that sat alongside us and just walked us through that season. We had dinners together, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so premarital counseling of some sort, biblical soul care, like saving your marriage before it starts, or preparing rich, or having a biblical counselor that can help you. And what we find, and we did this too, is even when people tell you, hey, this is what you can expect, or this is what's going on, there's a lot of head nodding, a lot of saying, yeah, we get that, we know that, that's okay. But I think it's really good to have, and you mentioned this, either an advocate couple, or if the person that's doing the counseling is a couple that can do it with you, so that after you're married, there's a person or two in your life that aren't your family that you can go to once you are married. Talk about the importance of that not being your family.
Well, I know you're saying that because our biblical soul care counselor said that you don't want to go to your family because they're going to side with you. And when you get married, you want to become one. You're one flesh. And so you're for the marriage, and you want a couple that's for the marriage. And so it's better to have an outside party that loves both of you and loves your oneness.
Yeah. And so talk a little bit about in this season of engagement. So you've either proposed or accepted the proposal, you've made a decision to move forward, you're getting ready to set a date, or you've set a date for when you're going to get married. That's a season of time that's really important. What are some of the things that need to be a must during that time? You already mentioned biblical counseling, but just as a couple, what are things that you want to make sure are going on, or things that are not going on, to ensure that marriage is stable and satisfying?
I think it was so important that you and I were praying together. We were talking to each other. We were listening to each other, because it gets crazy fast when you're planning a big wedding and you're working with people, getting the dress, getting the flowers, getting all the details done, as you remember.
I remember.
It's a lot. And so you want to keep close and be listening to each other, and just making time for each other, doing dates with each other is so important.
Yeah, because we find that most people are concerned about the wedding day rather than the marriage. And so from the time you get engaged, like you said, there's just this busyness. And I learned from you all the things that went into that, because I think for a guy, it's like, just go get a dress. Like, let's get married next weekend. And there's more to it than that. But I think during that time too, how important is it that you really are yourself, that you're willing to say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I'm looking forward to. These are some of the expectations I'm bringing with me. To the extent that you're aware of them, how important is that to share those things during the engagement process?
You definitely want to be real with one another. It's so important to get all your cards on the table before marriage, because it could be bad if you're not sharing everything that you're hoping for the marriage, and because you want to stay on the same page, and or at least be willing to change some of those ideas for your spouse.
Yeah. So like for a gal, like how important is it if a gal's expectation are, hey, someday when we have kids, I want to stay home, or someday even after we have kids, I still want to work. How important is it to articulate that when you're engaged?
It's extremely important, because your spouse might have something completely different in mind. And so in order to protect the marriage, protect your oneness, you want to be on the same page.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. I've seen it with gals. We've seen it with
Yeah.
guys, where a guy says to himself, he's never articulated it, but
Hmm.
I think when he's thinking, I think when we get married, I expect my wife to be at home.
Yeah.
The wife is thinking, hey, when we get married, I plan on working, and even after we have kids, I plan on working. And so that can create a friction point if there's not communication about that, or
Right.
vice versa. The wife wants to stay home, and the husband's thinking, no, you're going to work. That way we can both earn money because this is my expectation. And so I think that's where it's really important. And what we find with a lot of engaged couples is sometimes they're afraid to share exactly what they're feeling because there's this thought of, if I really share this,
Mm.
they might break up with me. Is breaking
Right.
up during the engagement wrong? Is that a
No.
bad thing? Talk about
No,
that.
but you shouldn't be afraid to tell the truth. If you can't do it then, you're definitely gonna run into some heavy problems during the marriage.
Right.
So, it's so important to be yourself, be able to talk and say all the hard things.
Right. And like, for instance, for me, I wanted to marry somebody that was called the same way I was into ministry, that had a similar calling and tug from the Lord. So even
Yeah.
like when we dated, I didn't prompt you to tell me those things
Right.
because I felt like if I prompt you to tell me that, you're just going to say what I want to hear.
Right.
I was waiting for you to share with me, like, this is what I want to do. And I want to support a calling in ministry because this is what God's called me to,
Yes.
which is eventually what you shared with me.
Mhm.
And so, but I think it's important that you do that because God created you a certain way.
Yeah.
God's given you desires in a certain way. And it's important to articulate that because we'll meet people that, the husband will expect that the wife's going to go into business with him. And that can be a great expectation. But it's a bad expectation if you're not articulating that.
Yeah.
And then you get in and expect the other person, you're just assuming, I thought you already knew that.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair to either of you
Right.
in that process. So I think honest communication is essential. And then, like, what if you get to a place where, okay, flowers are paid for, invitations paid for, dresses paid for, there's friction here. Like,
Mm.
I'm not so sure. I'm having
Yeah.
doubts, but not just like cold feet of, this is going to be a new season of my life, but cold feet like, I don't think I can be myself
Right.
if I move forward with this.
Yeah.
How important is it to share that and be honest?
It's pretty important. When we've counseled, we've told couples, if you're not 100% sure, it's time to put on the brakes and, um, just pray and see where God's leading you. But you don't want to move forward with a wedding.
Have you ever had that experience?
Not with you.
Both of us have had the experience where we were engaged and during the engagement process realized this isn't our best, this isn't their best, we need to end this. And
Yeah.
I don't know of anything that's been more painful in my life than
It was.
that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, short-term pain, long-term gain, we would not have met. We would have been going down a different trajectory, different pathway. And the fact that we were honest about, I can't go through, painful as it was, it was still a great decision.
It was the right
right?
decision.
And so we find that a lot of people, and we've actually sat across from couples before that have ended their engagement right in front of us, which is even more painful to watch, I think, in some ways. But
even though we knew it was right.
Yeah, but we've never told people what to do.
No.
I mean, it's always been their choice. I remember you asking someone one time, hey, what do you, we were asking the couple if they were ready to get married. And one of the persons was like, absolutely, this is going to be great. And the other one, we asked and there was silence. And you being you, just ask a question. You said, hey, this is for the rest of your life. Is this really what you want to do? And there was even more silence. And then the ring came off and was kind of it was super painful. But you fast forward 3 years from there, and that person that got out of that marriage or that engagement ended up marrying a gal that was just right for him, and they're doing great and everything's fine. So
That's right.
At the end of the day, it's okay to say no during engagement period. But one thing I do want to talk about, because I think we live in a culture that says, hey, engagement is the time to try things out. So let's move in together because we can move in, we can save money. Hey, let's share phone bills because that way we can save money. Let's start living as though we're married. And what we tell people all the time is that what the enemy wants to do to you prior to getting married is to get you to try to be one before you are one.
Right.
And then what he does after you get married, which we'll talk about next time, is try to get you to live as one, live as two, even though you are one.
Yeah.
And so what we would say to people is, I'll just ask you, what would you say to people that are like, hey, we're engaged, we're getting married in 3 months anyway, so we're just living together, and we think that's okay?
Yeah. I think God thinks it's going to be very painful in the long run if you're not honoring him and not honoring each other.
Yeah. So it dishonors God because it goes against his
Absolutely.
commandments, because sexuality is to be experienced in the covenant of marriage.
Right.
We have a lot of people that tell us something like this. I'll hear it from the guys. Hey, listen, we are living together, but we don't sleep together.
Yep.
And we're just showing good restraint. To which I always tell the guy, if you have that level of restraint to not engage in sexuality and you can live with her now, then you don't have what it takes to actually get married. Quit lying to yourself. And so at the end of the day, premarital sex is wrong, can be forgiven.
Yes.
But if you're engaged in a sexual relationship before marriage, you should pump the brakes and wait and take a time of restoration until you move forward with that
That's
marriage.
right.
Because sexuality outside of marriage, it blurs what God is saying. You can't hear him clearly.
No.
It causes confusion. We've met a lot of couples that because they were sleeping together and then they stopped sleeping together, but the wedding's like 6 weeks away, we're going to go for it anyway. Sometimes we've encouraged, hey, you may want to take a little pause and pump the brakes.
Right.
This is for the rest of your life. This is a covenant. This is
That's right.
one time. We've also encouraged couples, that have engaged in sexuality, that have repented and are moving forward. Okay, let's ask for God's forgiveness, and then let's move it on down the road. So, but it's important we do it God's way. And so what we find is the enemy will do everything in your life if you are engaged to get you to try to be one before God says that you're one. And so we say what God will bless is if you say, no, we're individuals. And we've talked about the fact we purchased a home, I believe it was 6 weeks before we were married, and I was going to move in. And we got to talking and said, that's the silliest thing we can do because we're not going to have the restraint just to kind of come visit at the house. We did well at our parents' homes. We did well when our siblings were around. But we just knew that wasn't the right thing to do. And so we didn't even move into our house. We owned it for 6 weeks. And the enemy was lying to me the whole time, like, you're paying for the house and you don't even live there. This is so stupid. It was the total right thing to do. And so we moved in together after we were married, and it was a great thing. It was a beautiful thing. It was fun to move in as a couple. And so I would just encourage every engaged couple that's going to hear the enemy say, hey, just move it closer together. Be one. And that's why we even tell dating couples that aren't engaged, you may want to even consider whether you pray together, because praying is so intimate that, when you start sharing your heart and what's going on and you're that close and you're holding a hand, it's really, it starts clouding things. And so it's really important to listen to people. So let me ask you that too.
I also just wanted to say real quick, my father always used to say, don't set yourself up for failure. And so being alone together at night, not a good idea. We used to have family around, we used to have friends around, and we just didn't set ourselves up. Right.
And so when you say, we're just going downstairs and watching a movie, it's 8 o'clock and all the lights are off, you're not going downstairs to watch a movie, right? And so, I think that's a great thing. I also think, how important is it? You mentioned early in the podcast just about having advocates or people that support you, having friends that are older or seasoned that are for you. How important is it to listen to the people that know you best during the engagement process?
Absolutely. I mean, they love you more than anyone. So they know your heart. They know what you're looking for. They know what a good match is for you. So it's so important to find those people and say, hey, what do you see here? Am I being myself? Is this a good fit? And ask the hard questions. This is the time. This is the time to ask the hard questions.
And how important is it to receive that feedback? It may be that your mom and dad aren't for you. It may be that they're not for your marriage because their own opinions. But what about the people in your life? It could be a mom, could be a dad, could be a coach, could be a teacher, could be a friend, could be somebody seasoned in the church. But you know that they love you and they care for you. How important is it to listen to their feedback if they were to say, I don't think you're yourself in this relationship. I see some things here you don't see. How important is it to listen to that? Or how important is, well, God told me I'm going to go forward anyway?
Well, the Lord wants us to have people that we talk to and that we can confide in. And so that's why we have the body. And if you don't have one person that you trust, then you need to look for that, because that is key to having someone speak into your life and really loving you enough to say, hey, you need to put the brakes on. This is not who you are. This is not what you want. This is not what God wants in your life.
Right. So seeking wise counsel is important, and receiving feedback from people that love you
Right.
is important. I know during my first engagement, I remember my mentor, one day I just called him because I was kind of freaking out. I mean, we were 2 months away from getting engaged, and I called him. It was like 6 a.m. And he asked me, he goes, have I ever been direct with you? Have I ever told you to do anything? I'm like, no, you've always told me my own decisions. He's like, well, I'm going to tell you right now, you need to end this engagement today. And you need to, if God's going to work it back around and make it, that's great. But if you don't end this right now, he goes, if we were in the church right now, because he was going to help officiate the marriage, he's like, I would exit you from the church and I wouldn't let you do this. And that was really important to me, because even as painful as it was important to have somebody that loved Christ, that loved me, that stood by me,
Knew you.
and that knew me.
That's right.
And was just saying, you can't be who God made you to be in that relationship. It's just not working. And it doesn't necessarily mean the other person's not a good person. It doesn't mean the other person's not a Christian.
Right.
But there is something about fit where you're both going the same direction and you're working the same way. And it's really important. And I think it's super hard when you're engaged, because you've made a decision, or you purchased a ring, or you purchased invitation, money's been laid out, things are moving forward, family's been invited, things have been organized, to really hear people say to you, I'm concerned.
Yes.
And to really listen to that. But better to listen now than to push through, because we know a lot of people that have said, no, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
God's going to be with us. We're going to figure it out. Who on the other side have said, I wish I would have slowed down.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with slowing things down, because marriage is permanent.
Yeah.
Jesus described it as permanent. It's till you meet him, till one of the both of you die. And so it's really, really important. So yeah, just to recap, I think it's really important that you find somebody that can be a biblical advocate for you. Soul care can help you walk through some of the things you're going to need. I think it's important for you to listen to people that really, really know you well. I think it's important for you to be honest with, this is what I'm expecting when I get married. This is how I see us functioning, just to be able to talk those things through. And I also think it's really important that you live with integrity before the Lord, because he'll honor the way that you treat one another in your dating life. And I mean, I always say, because I have 2 daughters, I have a son too, but my 2 daughters, if your boyfriend doesn't love you enough to respect you now and respect your body and not touch you now, he really doesn't love you. He can say he loves you. He can say he cares for you. He can demonstrate that through buying you gifts and doing all that. He doesn't love you until he calls all of his friends together, has a ceremony, puts a ring on your finger, makes a covenant before God. He will not be with anyone else. He's only going to be with you, and has honored you enough as a woman that he's valued you as an individual to not have his hands all over you before you're married.
That's right.
To demonstrate that he cares and wants to do it God's way. And so, ladies, you need a guy that loves you. And guys, you need a woman that loves you. You need somebody that's been walking out with integrity long before they met you. So one last thing, we'll end the podcast by saying this. How important is it that, you see a person's track record and not just what you see from the time that you date?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important to know the friends, the family, the boss maybe. I mean, just see them around different people, see them around children. Are they going to be a good parent? I mean, I know I was looking for that, and it was really important to me that you loved your family, that you were good with kids. Yeah. Tell us how important it is to be equally yoked.
Yeah. Well, first, let me just comment on that. I would say time and truth go hand in hand. It goes hand in hand. So what you're going to see over time is truth. And it doesn't mean that you can't meet and get married 3 months from now. I think there's great examples of people who were ready, who are walking with integrity, who met someone. I don't believe in really long engagements. I like shorter ones. Once you know, let's move. But during that season, it's important to listen and do those things. You were asking about being equally yoked.
Yeah.
It's essential. If you're a believer and the person you're engaged to is not a believer, I would tell you without reservation, pause, hit the brakes until they are a believer, because you're going 2 different directions for eternity. You have 2 different foundations. You have to both be Christians. But even then, just because you're both Christians doesn't mean you're equally yoked. There can be somebody that's been walking with the Lord, that's seasoned, that's going to obey God no matter what, and somebody that may be new to the faith. So I think there's a seasoned Christianity too that's helpful. It doesn't mean you both have to be exactly the same in every single way,
right?
But the more aligned you are, the greater opportunity you have for success when you get married. So
that's right.
Christians don't date non-Christians. Christians don't get engaged to non-Christians. Christians don't marry non-Christians. That's biblical. But even as Christians, you want to make sure you're pretty equally yoked.
Yeah.
And I think that goes beyond just being Christian. I think it goes to your seasoned ability as a Christian and how you're seasoned in your other areas of life.
That's right.
How mature are you? Are they mature like you? How do they handle money? Do they handle it like you? I mean, the more aligned you are on those things, the greater opportunity you're going to have for success. Because every marriage, as we're going to talk about, has enough challenge of its own. No matter, even if everything's right and everything's perfect, there's going to be that part that says, I didn't know it was quite going to be like this.
That's right.
And so the closer you are, the greater chance you're going to have to fight for success once you do get married.
That's right. And I just want to say real quick, I think it's so important to make sure that you are able to submit to this guy and that you respect him, because the Bible calls you to be able to submit and respect. And if this is not someone that you respect, then you're definitely not going to respect him once you get married, because then, after the marriage is when real things start to come out and the enemy is pressing into you even harder and more issues come up. And so you need to find out, do I respect him in these situations? And can I trust him? Can I lean on him?
Will he be good leading my kids?
Yeah.
Would this be a person I'd want stepping in and giving values to my children?
Right.
For guys, I would say don't marry somebody that's not a servant, because if they're not a servant, it means they're selfish. And if they're selfish, you're going to try to be a rescuer for the rest of your life, and it's going to be miserable in your marriage because everything's going to be about them. And so marry somebody that's a servant, that has their eyes off themselves and is living their lives for someone else. That's super important too. So.
Good.
This is not exhaustive.
No.
I think we could talk a lot about this. We
So
spend
much
a lot
more.
we spend a lot of time with engaged couples, and we love it. And marriage is a blessing. It's a good thing. This is not to dissuade you from marriage. This is to say, just make sure when you're going to get married, if that's what you desire, that you marry somebody that you're compatible with, that God's going with, that you're doing it God's way, so that when you enter marriage, you have his favor and his blessing when you do. So hopefully that's helpful. We've learned a lot of lessons over the years, been through some of the pains of not knowing how to do it right, and by God's grace, doing it right, and hope that's helpful to you. When you join us next time, we're going to talk about young marrieds, like when you first get married, what that's going to be like. But we're glad that you joined us today. And until we talk to you next time, know this from our heart to yours, that you are loved.